This is a full review of the Tesla Model X. Yeah, what about that? Well, in this full review, we will show you all the Easter eggs the car has to offer you, like the famous Christmas mode, which you're seeing here right now, with the light and audio show. And of course, a full and detailed review on the exterior features, the interior, of course, with those spectacular wing doors, and the driving experience. Today here with the 100D, so the biggest range possible, the biggest battery, and there's so much to show you about this very vehicle. I can tell you it will be a very exciting review, an update of everything the Tesla Model X has to offer. Well, and you can enjoy the show, and after that we'll have Let's Go on Autogefuehl. Well, you know that I have experienced a lot of vehicles so far in my life, and with no other vehicle you could show off that well, although it has zero sound. And it begins, for example, not only with this Christmas mode, which is probably the most spectacular feature a car has ever shown, even if it's of course, I mean, it's totally nonsense, but then again, there's a company just doing that. I mean, why not? It's fun. And when you use the car key, you can, for example, click twice on the area you want to open, and then you can, for example, open the wing doors already with the key, left or right side of the key. Really fancy. I mean, and why not? And when you're approaching your vehicle and want to open those falcon doors there for the rear passengers, that's already a very cool thing you can actually do. And the same thing with, you know, pressing on the rear part of the key, opening the trunk in the front part for the front trunk area, and so on. And even, you know, the electric plug area, I'll show you right now, you can open that one with the key as well. So this small key here has a lot of functions. .04 or 16'5" is the total length of the Tesla Model X. It's a little bit longer than the Tesla Model S, and of course basically a full-set SUV, at least for European perspective. When you approach the car, by the way, you know, it greets you with folding out the side mirrors, and when you leave the car they go in again, and also with some illumination in the front there. Overall, it has this crossover design, this coupe sedan look in the rear, but still higher. And it will be also some kind of way of it, you know, how it drives. I will tell you more about that later. We get the 20-inch rims here today. You can also get 22-inch. They look and are bigger, of course, but there's something to those rim size choice. I will tell you later on when we drive the car. Always go with the 20-inch rims. Here with the Tesla Model X, I will tell you later in the driving part. Here, those door handles, you can just, you know, you always have to get used to where to, but here in the front, it's like there. then the door flips out automatically. And by the way, when you just use the door handle from the inside just once and very fastly approach back, then also the door is shutting itself again right there. And same, you know, also here when you press in the rear part, then those wing doors are opening, and they actually also open when you are a little bit closer somewhere, and you can close them again with, you know, the key inside the vehicle, or also then here with this button. And well, about the sensor here, yeah, you know, it needs some resistance, but then it does stop. And also I can show you with once more when I open it and when I'm directly standing next to the vehicle, because it also has to avoid objects, for example a low basement garage or something. So like this here, I'm standing next to the door, it gives me some push, but then it just stops. And I mean, yeah, it's in a way weird because, for example, here it stands still now in this way. So yeah, electronic wise, I think it's quite okay. In the first few steps it was a little bit weird at some points, but meanwhile here they have fixed the electronics even more. It's a better solution now and has almost no fails. So meanwhile I'm also quite satisfied with those wing doors. And even if they just open in a halfway, you cannot step in then from here, but you can always go like from here or then from here. So it actually is always possible to enter the car in the rear. You don't have to be afraid of that. But what do you think about the overall approach and design of this vehicle?
This very vehicle, by the way, is also equipped with a soft touch. You can see it right there. Well, and then you can see the build quality here. They do have some things to do, some homework. Here, for example, it's not exactly even how the transition goes there. And this is, you know, where the classic premium manufacturers lead the way. You have a lot of small things about that on the vehicle. But then again, on the other side, you have so many things that are also different in a more positive way.
Hey, when I'm approaching the rear here again, also those tail lights are illuminated to welcome me back. We have your camera right there. And this one here is the version with a fixed wing. There's also one available with a foldable wing. This one here, as you see at the badge, the 100D. There's also the 75D. And meanwhile, it just represents the kilowatt hour figure of the battery. So 75 kilowatt hours, or here 100. And there's the P100D with a performance option. Then you have even fast acceleration. This one here about 5 seconds to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour. And the P100D approximately 3 seconds. So of course, you know, insanely. There's also this insane mode. So really, really very fast. But this one here is the one with the highest range because it doesn't use this performance tuning. And then you can get even more range and over 400 kilometers or something over 250 miles overall electric range, and that is really decent, of course. Design wise, you can see it's, you know, the rises to the top part and then, you know, has this coupe style ending a little bit, or with this falling roofline. That is, you know, the modern design taste, but then again, of course, it will lose some room then on the inside. I will soon show you how the hatch opens, because I'm also not very satisfied with some details there, but then again, there are so many cool features again. This is, throughout this review, that is a very polarizing car with so many things to talk about, you know, in every kind of respect.
Now, when you take a look at this rear reflector, it wouldn't be possible in a classic automotive industry, but here they just came up with an idea. Inside opening from the car or holding the rear part of the key here, press it twice and the rear hatch opens. Then you can recharge it right here. And it takes a day at home or 9 hours with the wall box, 4 to 5 hours in a charging station, and about 30 minutes to 80% as a supercharger from Tesla. Taking a first look at the interior, we got those carbon fiber decor elements here. Then from the Mercedes parts bin, or same supplier they're using, we got those window levers. Same also goes for the columns here at the steering wheel, the lower one for the adaptive cruise control, the higher one for the turning indicators. Digital cockpit screen right there with some nice visualizations. Also the range figure in the lower left. And they have stepped up the build quality if you compare the very early Tesla Model X models. So definitely see some improvement. Then you can see here those seats, and they are all animal free. Tesla is the first manufacturers to completely ban animal material because it's cruel and not sustainable. And you can get those seats here either in black, in beige, in white, in this material, or you can also start with a black fabric. I would tend to go either for the black fabric because it has better climate options than a slick surface, so it stays cooler in summer and warmer in winter. And if you want it cooled and perforated, Tesla now the only manufacturer, the first one to offer leatherette seats with the cooling function. Then they would be perforated, but this is so far only available in the 100D with a P, with the performance. This one here, just the 100D without the P. So I think they could offer this one throughout all model ranges. So at the moment, if you want a rather, budget version, if there is one, then stick with base fabric seats. And if you go for the P100D anyway, then go for those climated seats, those ventilated seats. And then I would probably go with the white option. We've shown you the white option earlier in another Tesla Model X review. You should also check out that review just to see the variation, because when this one here, seat-wise all white, it looks really, really fancy. Ceiling-wise, by the way, well, there's no big ceiling here because of this panoramic glass screen. Will soon give you another perspective. But ceiling-wise, you can get the black seats in combination with black ceiling roof or a bright one, and the beige seats also then comes with the white one. The white seats come always with a black roof on the interior. Seating position is rather crossover-wise, not that high SUV-ish. You can electrically control the steering wheel, also electric seat control. The seats, they're basically comfortable. I think they could improve the comfort a little bit more by the seating form if they would make it longer or offer an option that you can make them a little bit longer for taller people. Also, they're, in some ways a little bit narrow, talking on a very, very high level. I think seating comfort-wise, from the seat form, not talking about the materials, the seat form, to me, Volvo is at the moment leading in the seating comfort from this built seat form just right now. But overall, I didn't experience any back pain here yet. You have, well, I don't have to talk about headroom because there's just plenty available for everyone. And it's such a unique view, I have to show you that from the other perspective. And how cool is that? When I hit the brake pedal, the door automatically shuts. Very cool feature. By the way, you just put in the gear by moving this one down, or you press it here to park the vehicle. That's it. There's no start-stop button. And up for reverse, and also the rear view camera is engaged. So this interior overview here with a leatherette cover, nicely done, fixedly attached also. So they had some issues before that. I think they have improved the quality here with this carbon fiber stuff. Just one button right here on the right side for the glove box and one for the hazardous lights or the hazard lights. Steering wheel, we know that also from the Model S. Here on the left side, increase the sound or lower it. On the right side, you control the small display here, that you can change the temperature, for example, while driving without, looking down here, because that might be, distracting while driving. So you can just use this function here. Also use the van speed or pick up the phone or something. Then, of course, this huge screen here, biggest in the automotive industry. Here at the moment with a perfect resolution rear view camera. You also have sensors. Then when you approach, for example, to something in the front, it shows you how much centimeters you have left. Pretty cool function then. In the lower part, then the map, and you can, of course, for example, when you press the map twice, make it bigger and have it on the full screen. And wow, satellite view does look fancy, but usually I would stick here with the normal map view that looks cleaner and you can better see what's going on. And you will also have a small GPS route on the left, small instrument display. How long it takes to load, by the way, always depends on your internet connection. It's not about the very vehicle. In the lower part, you always have the temperature vents, but as I've shown you while driving, you better do it at the steering wheel. In the left part, you can always access the control screen. For example, change the regenerative braking function. If it's flickering, especially right now, by the way, on the display, it's not in real life, it's just on camera. it's hard to set the camera up in a way that it's not flickering on the screen for the camera. Steering mode, how much resistance you have there. You can do magic with the seats, for example, also slide the rear seats from here. You can do so much from the front. The air suspension, which is optional here, you can put it higher or lower when the car is fully operational, for example. So you have a lot of different functions right there. You also have the creeping mode, so when it's on, the vehicle slowly moves when the brake pedal is released, as it says here right now. It's, I think, quite handy. I like to drive with it, especially for traffic jam. Then you get regular updates over the air. This is so special for the automotive industry. There's a new Model X software available. Then you do that, for example, when you leave the car overnight. For example, here it says 1 hour and 40 minutes. Then you can't drive the vehicle in this time, so just do it when you really don't need it. Then you get some more stuff. For example, there was once an update with Easter eggs. So when you press the Tesla button in the top there, you can have this Christmas mode. That's what this one here, when you get out of the vehicle, close it, then it starts what we've shown you initially. This is here the more Gaul or Rainbow Road mode. When you're driving the car, this one happens then when you use the adaptive cruise control Autopilot function.
I gotta have more cowbell. Guess what? I got a fever. And the only prescription is more cowbell.
Then you have another Rudolph mode where Christmas sound is being played, but it's very loud, so I wouldn't recommend it. Then this one here, this unicorn mode, then you can just write something out here like Autogefuehl. Then actually also, or making use a pen like here, like rocks. So and then publish. I assume I want Tesla to critique your artistic masterpiece. Yes, I'm an artist. And well, now they obviously take a look at it, and I can also always clear that. So might be funny for your kids then, for example, when they sit in the front. And you always have to deactivate Easter egg mode, by the way. Just the Christmas mode, it won't be playing all the way around. And this one here, when you press the Mars rover mode, then it's also pretty funny to when you go to the GPS, then you're here just on the Mars. This is really funny stuff. And I mean, it's of course, and again, if you think they changed that one here as well. Well, this mode here, when you go to the air suspension, then you have this depth for this Hoover sub, or how you call it. Really funny stuff. And the thing, again, why not? Why not just have some fun? I think this is also what makes this car so special. And among the coolest things is for sure this look outside. Wow, you can see it has a darker tone in the upper area right there, this panoramic glass screen, and this really, actually, it insulates a little bit against heat, but of course this car heats over a little bit more than other vehicles. And you don't need sunglasses all the time because it's basically an inbuilt sunglass, so it's really okay to drive this car also without sunglasses. You also have this optional visors here, which magnets, they pop out, and you have also small mirror right there, but I'm not sure about those. I haven't used them yet. I didn't need to, and the problem is also when they are in their normal position, they tend to have a little rattling effect. So it's maybe because like this here or something. And now I found a solution to improve it. If you're a Tesla Model X owner, just do it like this. Just a little angle forward, and obviously this holds this part tighter than it usually does when it's just like this. Yeah, it shouldn't be the case, but at least there's something you can do against it in a very easy way. Storage areas. On the inside of the doors it's pretty small, but the middle console is bigger. Below the big screen you have a place to put your smartphone, for example. Goes actually quite deep. Then you can slide this one here open. You have two big bottle holders, or you can just remove those to have free space right there. Then more far back, you can flip this one here, and then you have two USB ports there. I remember it with the Model S, there was a charge plug there for the iPhone, but obviously they've went back to just the USB solutions right now there. And then you have two cup holders. You could slide this armrest like this, and then we go here. But they are not adaptive, so I'm missing those adaptive functions for the cup holders, so bottles are being kept tighter. So when you can open those windows completely, it is really so easy to get inside. That is really superb. You can also close and open the windows as a passenger driver yourself here with those buttons. And this is really a spaceship-like seating position. It's actually pretty fancy. You see, I can also control it electrically. I can slide them forward, but this one is the maximum position backward. And if I'm sitting here as a tall driver, I can sit here with 4 adults, no problem, yes. But then again, they're not using the package they have. You know, considering the car is over 5 meters or, you know, 16'5", there should be more legroom, definitely. So this is not very well used. You can, by the way, also put the seat a little bit more backward to have a more sleeping position, or you can also put it more forward like this, so you have a more upright position. But then again, there should be more room left. You can get different setups here. You can get this one. This here, 2 seats, so overall 6 seats. There's also a 5-seater. This is the base version. Then you have a bench, a classic bench here in the rear part. Isofix, by the way, here on the outside seats. They will also be available on the third seating row. I will soon show you. With the bench, you can fold it in a 2/3, 1/3 split. I took a look at that at the Tesla dealer, and well, it's a rather classic approach, but this one is super cool because you have those 2 single seats in the rear. You can move around freely. It's very fancy. By the way, you can, where is it? There it is. You can also move the seats forward like this, and then they also fold forward just a little bit more. So then you can get in and out from the rear here, but here in this setup, it's just easier to leave the seat as it is and then just approach it from the middle part and go through. For the kids, this will be so much fun if they can crawl in here, go around to the middle and then to the very rear seats. Just a fancy feature for sure. And a great place in the middle here, for example, also for cat transport. So when we had to go with Schmoozy to the doctor recently, she could be just right here in the middle with her box. Well, and what if we close those windows here when sitting in the rear? Well, that's the sensor saying I don't want to close. Let's see, if I hold it, then I can override it. Probably maybe, you know, saw something like a tripod next to the car, but then it's closing very gently in this case. Overall, the windows close faster now than before, by the way. So when they're closed, I also have this panoramic roof above me here. It's pretty cool, and this also increases the headroom massively, so there's no problem as for that, whereas the middle part then is a little bit lower, and that's also where those 2 single seats are using the space they have. So again, the most unique seating position for a vehicle also in the rear. Such a unique view here for the rear passengers, and then again, when you have so much room in the middle part, this is just a spacious travel feeling, or just to put some bags there or whatever. So you have a lot of, you know, just ideas out there what you can do with that. And you have 2 USB ports here for the rear passengers, and 1 more right there for the 3rd seating row. Wow. So now first about this hatch. Double press the key at the rear part and then it opens, or you can use the button right there. Well, you can program it where it should be standing still, then hold this close button for a couple of seconds and then it stays in this position. For example, if my basement garage is ending right there, and you can see the distance from the lower part to the top part is huge, and that makes it very unhandy. So seriously, the worst hatch I've experienced yet, because it lets you so less flexibility. When you push it all the way up, I mean, you can just do it outside basically. Then I can also stand underneath it. You know, that's no problem basically. But usually, even in the basement garage, it only opens like here, and then it's really hard to. And I've already hit my head like 3 times when it was basically standing here something. And then you was going like this, and you usually know that those hatches are not that limited, and then whatever, and then bam, well, you have to bear that in mind. Child safety test. That's good. You know, that works. But overall, somehow it feels like, you know, not that good build quality wise. So this is also again one of the weaknesses of this car. Having said that, if you push it in the highest position, then you can very easily access the trunk. With the Tesla Model X and the Model S, this will of course also be the big advantage if you compare it to the Model 3, for example. Here, if I want to have it till here, I can just press this button in the upper part. There again, and then this position is saved. I remember, you know, I should save it in another way around, then not damage it another way, but it should have a sensor that it won't open. Will it? I'll test it out. So then you can actually reach through this one very easily. The Model 3 will just have a small limousine or sedan-like hatch where you're not that flexible. And here we go then with the trunk. Let's put a cabin trolley inside. There you can see when you have the third seating row flipped down, it does work here. Again, you have this 2-2-2 setup, or 6-seater, or a bench 5-seater, or then also bench plus those two. 7-seater is the top option then for that one. But this one is, to me, somehow the coolest one we have at the moment. So you can see if you flip those up, the cabin trolley does not fit in the longitudinal way, just in the transverse way in there. Then you can also flip the last seating row up, and that you have plenty of room available here. But when you want to put the seats there in the front, well, there's one problem, because they don't flip down totally. So if you think about putting a bicycle just here in the trunk, the Tesla Model S might be the better one as a sedan than the SUV here, because this is the maximum you have. Or you can say, you don't go for this setup with the single seats, you go with the rear bench, and then you can better flip it in a 1/3, 2/3 split. Probably, I mean, I just love this setup here. But then again, I would be more flexible loading-wise if I go with the rear bench here. So maybe I would then end up again with the 5-seater. Or what would you do? And then there's also an interesting thing, if we flip those seats, there's a button at the side where we can release it and then flip it up like this. And at the moment here on the other side, this seat here is blocking it. But as soon as I hit this button, magic, the other seat here goes a little bit in the front, and just, you know, that close that I can lift up this seat. So a clever solution. And then you can see how much trunk is left in this case then. And underneath this cover here, there's actually plenty more room left. And there you can, for example, store your cables, but I mean, even everything more, because it's really huge, this hidden department. Well, what about the seating then? Well, the access is no problem, either here this way or then through the middle tunnel in this setup. And well, sitting here, headroom wise, it's okay when you put your head really far in the back, then it raises up again to the rear part. Here in the front, you tend to hit it a little bit. I'm 1.86 m or 6'1", but still okay headroom wise in any case. Knee room wise, of course, it's nothing for tall persons. And you can see this setup here at the moment on the other side. This is when the seat is all the way back and I could sit there as a tall person, then it's not really possible. But then again, if you think about shorter routes, and you have this 2-2-2 setup, 6-seater setup, then you can put your legs right here in the middle tunnel between those two seats. But if that would work for 2 adults, I don't know. But I mean, for smaller kids, it does work. And I think a really important point that they have also thought about the ISOFIX here in the rear, because for child seats, it's actually perfect. Then you can go maybe with 4 adults and 2 children with child seats, whereas some other manufacturers, or actually most of them, miss the ISOFIX on those 6th and 7th seats, or in this case here, the 5th and 6th seats. And I think it's actually the best to use them for child seats, because otherwise you just have a very small niche between children that are not anymore needing a child seat anymore, and when they're not too tall. So just a very small niche of children age and size who could otherwise use those last seats. But here with the ISOFIX, you can also use it then with the child seats very easily. So overall, I think a good solution. Well, and in the front, you can also press the key twice in the front then, and then you can open this front trunk, a little bit like in the Porsche, just wider from left to right. And well, not sure if you use it that often in everyday driving life, but at least it gives you even more flexibility. And then one strange thing happened. So I can still change the volume, at least it says so, but it doesn't do change the volume, it just appears to be changing the volume. Also in the central screen, the camera is still showing the GPS, well, somewhat. I cannot change anything, it's not responding at all. And well, especially important this info when you're a Tesla owner already. What do you do then? Well, you know there are those two buttons at the steering wheel, left side here for the volume and right side to control the right side of the central screen. You hold both of those buttons parallel, you know, with left and right thumb, and that should reboot the system. But that really takes some time. By the way, again, this flickering you can see here, it's not in real life. It looks really good in real life. So, here we go. We're back online. We can also change the temperature here again. So, this is actually quite easy solution. You just have to know how to change it. And I mean, I've been saying it a couple of times. It's also critical with digital instruments in general. We've also received reports from different manufacturers that you had some digital instruments and they failed and had to be rebooted, maybe with start stop or so. Well, that's the downside of not having analog stuff.
Welcome to Thomas's driving lounge, here the driving part. And one of the most important things about this vehicle is recuperation. So you lift your foot off the throttle, and now I'm starting the the real braking process because I really want to come to a standstill. But the car is really decelerating as soon as you lift your foot from the throttle. And this is really helpful because, you know, also in a normal vehicle, when you switch from the throttle to the brakes, it usually, you know, takes a second then that you reach your brakes, unless you're a racing driver and drive with two feet, like left one on the brake pedal and right one on the throttle. You have to be careful with that. If you're not used to that, you're too sensitive and then you're really hammering the brakes because you don't have the feeling in the left foot. But if you have practice, you can actually do that. Otherwise, usually you just use your right foot and then you switch. But then again, as soon as you lift the throttle, you get the deceleration, the regenerative braking. And it is said that vehicles, electric vehicles in general, can gain about 10% of the energy then, you know, overall back then again. So it is definitely useful, and you also see it then in your range. And talking about the range here directly at the beginning, at the moment I'm consuming about 211 watt hours per kilometer, and that is, you can directly calculate that, there's 21 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometer. That is pretty decent. So if you're really performing a lot, then it's about 25 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. And then you can calculate, okay, 25, and then 100 kilowatt hours is the battery. So 4 times 25 is 400 kilometers of range. When at the moment we're cruising at about, you know, 21 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, then I can even score better range figures up to, let's say, 450 kilometers or something. So, you know, 300 miles plus. And I guess this is perfectly fine and still among the best here in the electric vehicle segment, because here also the 100D is the one with the biggest range or highest range, because the P103 has more performance. You sometimes tend to use it and then you get less range. And the 75 version of this vehicle here, well, that one has a smaller battery, but the 100D and the P103 have the very same battery. And when you're standing still, you can also use some more of those control settings here. Then, you know, you're not here in language and units. I can switch to miles, for example, and then I can also tell you a figure here. So 320 watt hours per mile. Then again, that would be 32 kilowatt hours per mile.
So at the moment the consumption is really, really decent. Yeah, 32 kilowatt hours per mile. So with the Porsche Cayenne hybrid, by the way, it was approximately the same. So it was always between 20 and 25 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. And with the BMW i3, very smaller vehicle, lighter vehicle, it was around 14 to 17 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. So not really half, but almost half. So you see that this big vehicle, yeah, I mean, it is actually heavy still, and therefore consumes also a lot of energy, but still reasonable if you compare it to fuel. By the way, if you see the display flickering, and you have just seen that when I'm on a wide screen it's flickering more, it's because of the camera. It's not really matching the hertz rate of the monitor. If you look at it here in detail, it looks perfectly fine. And how cool is that? I can have not only GPS but also the rear view camera. Usually it deactivates with every vehicle when you're driving faster, but here I'm at 60 kilometers an hour and I'm still looking at the rear camera here. This is really amazing. And since the rear mirror is really not that huge and I can't see so much, I can actually see better in this rear camera what's going on behind me. So, I mean, why not? I think it's pretty fancy. In general, this vehicle is of course about the silent electric ride. You feel so relaxed by that, and I really just love it. And you have the instant torque. I'm also at the moment in the chill mode, so I'm having less acceleration on purpose because this vehicle is so strong. It can really accelerate that hard. I mean, 5 seconds to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour with the 100D, or 3 seconds with the P, with the performance version. This is really insane for a 2.3 ton heavy SUV. So now I'm changing to the standard acceleration mode. I can show you some acceleration soon when we approach the motorway. And even if you're at higher speeds, the torque is always there. That is the big advantage of those electric drives. This is really amazing. And of course, I mean, look at this panoramic view here to the front. This is so great. It is a very, very unique driving feeling. This car really feels like no other. This is also the main characteristic of this car. So now let's do some 70 or 65 kilometer to 100. Let's go. There we go. I mean, even if you use it, and I've driven the Merrill Model S in the P100D version, which is even more extreme, which has an acceleration figure with 2 point something, I think 2.8 seconds as was. I've shown you that also in the acceleration video, so in the full review as well. Check that out as well. But still, you're always amazed, and it is not connected to a sound, so your brain doesn't work with that actually. So imagine you're sitting in your chair or on your sofa couch at the moment, and then someone does like this, but without a sound, and suddenly you're 200 meters more somewhere else. And you're like, what's going on? I haven't noticed that. This is really something, wow, really, really special. But then again, to something negative about this car, I'm at the moment at the 100 kilometers an hour, or 62 miles. This is still okay, but everything that goes above that really increases the wind noise. It's also worse than in the Model S. So there's different form. Yes, it is somehow streamlined, but still, you have more wind noise than in the Model S, and also have a bigger resonance room here. And this is also one of the biggest weaknesses if you compare it to German premium manufacturers, or even, if you take Lexus for example. The sound insulation, that's for sure. So they haven't figured that out that well, and especially then if you think about a German approach to a vehicle, where you can drive sometimes, in let's say Mercedes E-Class, or even the Mercedes SUVs, where you drive 160 kilometers an hour, or like 125 miles an hour or something, and you think, am I standing still? I don't hear any wind noise. But that's not the case here. And then again, yes, it is a great feature of the car when it's silent at fast speed. It's great, there's no question. But the question is, how much effort do you really put into that? So for German customers, yes, it's definitely worthwhile. For all other customers of the in the world, it's good, but it doesn't matter that much because usually you don't drive that fast. I mean, who of you who are not in Germany regularly drive more than 120 kilometers an hour, or let's say more than 70, 80 miles an hour with your car on a regular basis? So, and then when you're here at 100 or something, it's perfectly fine. Then you can also set the cruise control, and when I pull it twice, then this lever, columns all, as Mercedes has been using them. Then I also have this Autopilot, but I've also demonstrated in the earlier stage where it didn't complain. Now, you're not supposed to take your hands off the steering wheel. You're still obliged to remain in control, and you've read of those accidents lately because people were totally trusting in the system. You see, it does work. It keeps your lane, but it's not meant to be fully autonomous yet. So you should still remain in control. That's very important. It also does a lane change. Let's see. Yeah, and I think, yeah. I mean, a lane change maybe yes, but not getting off the motorway. So you always have to remain in control, but you see, keeping it and supporting you, that is definitely working. And I think that's good. So you can then rest your hands on the steering wheel and relax a little bit more. The distance to the car in front of you is being kept. And also, you just help a little bit right there. So an adaptive cruise control, to have it is really, really cool, definitely. How cool is the rear view camera here? It's like really... Also, I have put the satellite view at the moment because it's darker and that is less flickering on the camera. Again, for me, it doesn't make any difference. But when I'm usually driving using the navigation, I'm putting it on the plain map mode. So that is better to see and less distracting. And you also get the GPS information then when you have a route planned in your left side here and on the instruments. That's also pretty helpful for sure. So, and the thing is, that this silent electric ride, in contrast to the little bit more wind noises when you're at higher speeds, that's of course a contrast. But overall, you still remain a somewhat relaxed feeling, unless you really push the throttle. And I'll do that once more here for you now. Let's go. I'm fast enough. Plop, and that's 150 kilometers an hour approximately. And it's so easy. I mean, we got the all-wheel drive, so electric motors front and the rear. And by the way, this is not only good for acceleration, but also for recuperation, because you can recuperate on 2 axles. And now you actually hear that on camera, do you? I mean, 150 kilometers an hour, and it's really very loud in here. So this is to me one of the biggest downsides. And as I've shown earlier, I fixed my so far biggest downside here with the sun visor. It says just switch the angle a little bit, that your hand can be fitted in here. That it's not quite like this. When it's like this, it sometimes rattles. But when you do it then like this, a little bit away from the pillar, that's totally fine. Yeah, that shouldn't be, but again, at least Autogefuehl presented to real Tesla Model X drivers a good fix. Now lifting my foot off the throttle, again recuperation. I can also change that a little bit, so I can have it from the standard to low. And that means when I then lift my foot off the throttle now, it is recuperating, but not as strongly as it would do so far. You can argue that rolling is, in general, the better, more efficient strategy. So if you have zero recuperation, you use all the rolling energy you have. It would be more fuel consuming. It would be more fuel saving. Yeah, that was a big fail, yeah. So, but then again, when you lift your foot off the throttle, usually you are in a situation, look at that now here, the night view, also pretty cool, right? So you're usually in a situation where you want to reduce your speed anyway. And in this case, it makes sense to have the regenerative braking immediately when you step off the foot, and I tested it especially in the city, and I think even the little stronger recuperation mode is better in a way, because then you can use this one pedal driving. You're not using the brakes most of the time. It's somehow also fun and relaxed to drive in that way. And you know, when I see, oh, there's some cars in front of me, or there's a traffic light going to red, lift my foot, and then the car is decelerating, and that somehow always gets into a very smooth process overall. So I think it's in general a good idea to do it in that way. Meanwhile, a couple of months ago, maybe with the first electric vehicles, I was thinking a little bit otherwise. But then again, since it's really the case that usually when you lift your foot off the throttle, you want to reduce your speed, it's then also okay to use this standard regenerative braking, and then to also try to get most power back then by this process. So it's really seldom that we have such a performance from a big SUV. Usually you would need like a GLE or GLS from Mercedes, something like that, with a V8 at least, to get such power then here. You still have it with the vehicle. And also when I'm driving around, I always check out the looks of the people, which cars are attracting more attention. And this is definitely among the one that is attracting most attention, especially when you're driving silently and slowly past some people and say, wow, this doesn't make any sound. Cool. And of course, as soon as you open the wing doors, everyone's like, wow, it's Back to the Future or something. This is definitely, it's an, again, not necessary feature, and sometimes you think, can it be a little bit easier? But you can very well use it for your next show off. That is always a really funny thing. And yeah, I mean, yes, less quality than the other premium competitors. You have to find some practical fixes. Not that silent, especially at higher speeds. This is the downside. Then again, I don't see at the moment the real alternative. There's no all-electric vehicle with this range in this segment. Will be coming up soon for sure, but again, Tesla Model S is out since 2012. No one has come up with a serious competitor yet. Can't believe that. But overall, this feeling here when driving it, due to the simplistic layout, reducing everything to the max, it somehow gives you a calm feeling. Although it's a little bit louder, this is a strange thing. So the overall impression, and I've been driving, I think 600-700 different cars over the past years, and this car here is still something special. Especially again while driving it, it somehow gives you a very unique feeling. The same with the Model S. And you tend to say, yes, you have less quality, less build quality and some perfection details. The electronics sometimes mess it up a little bit, and yes, it's louder at higher speeds. And then you say, why do I still want to have it? I don't know. I think this simplistic feeling, the electric drive, which is really satisfying, it's just cool. It is just cool. So, and it's not only my personal opinion. I've been, especially in the Teslas, I've been doing some field experiments and taking some co-drivers here, different passengers, and then asking, what do you think? Or just watch their reactions. And it's always the same. When you have passengers in these vehicles, they're always amazed in a way they're with no other vehicle. And I think this is also the reason why, among all the problems there are with Tesla at the moment, build quality, warranty costs, that they can actually build the vehicles overall, that they cannot build enough vehicles at the moment still. But so many people still are Tesla enthusiasts, and I can really understand that. So one more thing, of course, we, talking about those special things, but what about the basic features? So for example, let me put off the cruise control, I have full control. Steering feel. Well, it is pretty direct. So you can very well park in and out. You also got a reaction basically in the small angle areas. That's fine too. I've usually set it on comfort. You can also change it in the menu to standard or sport. Then you have some more resistance. Yeah, I mean, if you like that, sure, why not? One more acceleration now from 100 to, let's see, and you can see even when you're already at the higher speeds, you still have the boost. So 170 kilometers an hour. Wow. Of course, again, it gets very loud. And the good thing is, soon if you lift your foot, you can still somehow get this energy back. Otherwise, it would be totally lost, of course. Also, stability at higher speeds, that's totally fine. See the lane change here. The car is not tilting at all, actually. And it's still, you know, a rather big SUV. So, very stable here. And now, one of the most important things for you, if you plan to buy a Tesla Model X or S at someday, always go for the smallest rim size possible. We are driving the 20-inch here today. So far, I've also driven the 22-inch with the Tesla Model X, and those are way rougher. So the suspension is not as good as you're used to from the premium segment at this price. So it is somehow a stiffer, sporty ride. It's not uncomfortable at all, but sometimes, you know, some bumps in the road, yeah, you know, they can be a little bit rough. But here with a 20-inch, I think it's really fine. Don't go for the 22-inch with this car. Do yourself a favor, because it gets really rough then. Yeah, I mean, suspension-wise, they should definitely improve something. Whoa, some smoke here. Where's that smoke coming from? Not from me. I'm driving an electric vehicle, so I'm out this time. So really cool. I think that the 20-inch setup here is really cool, and I think, as you've seen also on the visual part, it looks really nice. Now when we have some high-speed driving, 26 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, you see it goes up. But I mean, you're not always going 180 kilometers an hour in this very vehicle, so that's also maybe not that realistic in this respect then. Pretty interesting though. So again, suspension-wise, also from the sound the car makes when you're going over some transverse bumps, especially from the rear area, something like that. So sound, suspension-wise, this is also not on an optimum level. You have to just be realistic with this car, you know. Out there's so much polarization these days. People say, like, you know, Tesla best ever and nothing else counts, and then there are people who are just Tesla haters and just being happy on every negative news there's spread about Tesla. And I mean, why can't we just be realistic with the car and stress what's positive and stress what's negative? And I guess that's what we are always doing at Autogefuehl, and I hope you also really appreciate that we you know, can find this realistic balance. And that's, you know, with everything in life. You don't have to see everything as totally positive or totally negative. It's usually the truth is somewhere in between, and this is the same with this vehicle. So you have a lot of fun, although it's a big SUV or rather crossover style. You have some competitors which are true SUVs, in which you sit a little bit higher. So I would rather describe this one here as crossover feeling. But of course, if you compare it to the Tesla Model S, you sit higher, and to me also, for this reason, more comfortable. So I like the Model S for its visual look. I like it better than the Tesla Model X, just from the visuals. You know, that you can flip the seats totally in the rear then is also really handy with the Model S. But then again, the interior concept here, when you have passengers in the rear, is of course cooler here in the Model X, especially with this 2-2-2 setup. And this upright seating position is really cool. And also, of course, this unique panoramic sunroof. And the funny thing is, you would think with those big glass areas, you always need to have sunglasses while driving. But the really funny thing is, I felt that I need less sunglasses while driving, because you have this inbuilt sunglass in the top part, and it really, and I've never used these here. you know, those additional sunshades, which you can, you know, flip out like this, as I showed you earlier. I think a little bit unhandy also. The mirror is very small, but I've never used them. There was no need to. And, you know, somehow I think the wide glass area makes your eyes adapt to, you know, a little bit more brightness. But then you're not, you know, that shocked by the brightness maybe when it's just coming from a very small area. So I'm always driving with sunglasses when I'm driving a car and not being on camera. I think it's rude to wear sunglasses as a presenter because you just lose the eye contact. I don't like that as a viewer myself. But then usually I would now drive with sunglasses basically. But the funny thing is really that I have less desire to drive with sunglasses when I'm here in the Tesla Model X with the gigantic panoramic sunroof. And that is something I wouldn't have expected overall. I would have, you know, thought the contrary. Yeah, I mean, you hear and feel that this car is one of the cars where I can tell you really the most things overall about. At some point I have to stop. I think, you know, I hope you still enjoyed that. And I think it shows again that it can be very polarizing and it has so many great and unique features. So many, especially this year, the Model X, so many unique features than any other vehicle on the market at the moment. And of course, there are then, you know, the downsides they still have to fix. And I mean, overall, I think they can manage it because when you lack innovation and you're perfect in all conservative stuff, it's good, but there's no future for you. If you're really forward in innovation, but you lack one of the, you know, some basic things, you can, I mean, you know where the problem is, and you know basically you can fix it. I think this is a better prospect than the other way around. Or what do you think?
And here we go with our conclusion for today with the Tesla Model X in the 100D spec. Can it match the premium manufacturers in the build quality? No. Can it match the other competitors in the ride comfort and this perfection of the ride? No. Is it actually a good price offering? No. Is it still a great car? Yes, because it has this unique design, exterior, and especially on the interior. This interior concept from 2012 from the Tesla Model S taken over here to the X. And it's still so futuristic, it still could be a concept vehicle from the other manufacturers at some motor show. And of course, I mean, if you just look at it on the inside, and here, especially with the panoramic windscreen, it is such a unique car, more unique than any other car, especially here, the Model X. And yeah, it does come with some downsides. Man, the room you have on the interior, it's not really a very good package. It's still somehow bulky on the exterior for the room it got on the inside. Still fairly comfortable. The ride comfort should be better suspension-wise, but with my 20-inch rims, smaller rims tip, you'll be better off for sure. Then it has so many great features. The wing doors, I mean, you can argue about that. They have pros and cons. It's of course a show-off basically. When you have a lot of room, then you can get in and out easier for sure. But then again, with the electronics, they have been improved very well. I like that. But of course, at some times you also think, can't it be just easier? But again, it's such a unique and polarizing feature. In the interior, you feel so much at home because everything is simplistic and you have this reduction to the maximum, even though you have this big screen. This is again, you know, some contrast they play with. They have the huge screen, but on the other hand, it's still so simple. When you have all the controls set once and then you just cruise and have of course a good Google Maps GPS, which is better than any other GPS you can get, and they are developing. Sometimes you just have to get some supplier to get some special part, and they will always be better because they are more innovative and they can also have smaller development spans and so on. So definitely one of those cars where you can say so many positive things about, and then of course there's something annoying here and there, because we have to remember the price, which is just under 100,000 for the entry model, then with a little bit less range, and then if you pick the top spec, you're about 150,000. And then, of course, you have to say nothing should be rattling and suspension should be a little bit better. So yes, they have to work on some of those basic features, but the innovation is definitely there. And you know, some fields they really lag behind if you compare the competition, but in other areas they are really heading into the future and showing us actually what's possible. And no one has really matched that in this respect. So, and overall, you can just say this is one of the most unique vehicles overall. Thank you so much for tuning into Autogefuehl. Of course, now I'm looking forward to your opinion about this vehicle.